Got it.
All right. So we're picking up today. We're going to try to finish up Genesis 24. And one thing you'll notice in the book of Genesis is that there's always a key person who is sort of the Christ, the anointed one, the one whom God has chosen to bless the nations, to be that special person. And from the very beginning, we had it with Adam first and Eve, and then it went to Abel. But then after his death, he's replaced by Seth, and then Seth is replaced by Noah down the line. He becomes very important, as well as Enoch and his whole line before him. And then we end up ultimately with Abraham in chapter 12. And as one is kind of fading off the scene, another one is rising to take his place. And that's what we're seeing here. This is a transition in the book of Genesis where Abraham's time is finishing up. And we're the spotlight is moving off of him and is now moving on to his son Isaac. And so it starts with, if you remember, with Sarah's death. And let's see if we have that here. Um, and so we had back in 23, I believe it was, that Sarah dies, if you can remember that. And he purchases a plot of land to bury her. Really, the first fulfillment of God's promise to him that he would inherit that land. He's been living in tents the whole time. And at the end of that story, we have, okay, he buries Sarah. That sort of now marks sort of the end of Abraham's story. We're not going to see much of Abraham after this. Uh, Now in Genesis 24, why don't we just read through this one more time because we only got about halfway through it, but let's scroll through this one more time. So, um, Haley, would you start us off? Would you mind reading a little bit for us?
No, not at all.
Where
Okay.
should I start? At the beginning?
Can you see that verses 1 to 9? Why don't we
Okay.
do that?
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
on the left side here. Yeah.
Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he had, put your hand under my thigh, that I may make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell, but will go to my country and to my kindred and take a wife for my son Isaac. The servant said to him, perhaps the woman may not be willing to follow me back to this land. Must I then take your son back to the land from which you came? Abraham said to him, see to it that you do not take my son back there. The Lord said to God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my kindred, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son there. But the woman is not willing to follow you. Then you will be free from this oath of mine. Only you must not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning of this matter.
Okay. All right. Let's go through a little bit of Abraham's instructions to his servant. He needs to find a wife for his son now, and he gives very specific instructions. What are some of the things he says regarding the kind of woman he's looking for?
He doesn't want her to be a Canaanite.
All right. So that's the first thing. She must not be from the daughters of the Canaanites. Now, if you think about that, um, where is Abraham living right now with Isaac? Where are they dwelling?
In the land of Canaan.
In the land of Canaan. So he's saying to them, basically, it's like if he was dwelling in America, he would be saying, I want you to find a wife for my son, but you can't be an American girl. So even though they're living in the country here, it's like he has to leave. He has to go far away. Why not? Why must she not be from the Canaanites?
Aren't they enemies of God?
They are. Yes. What do you remember what their history goes back to? The Canaanites. Remember where we first heard about them?
Ham.
Yeah, from Ham after the days of in the days after the flood, if you remember, Noah has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Do you remember this?
Mhm.
And one day Noah plants a vineyard and he gets drunk. And he is so drunk that he's lying in his tent naked. So he's lying naked in his tent, this poor guy, but he's in his tent. And Ham, his son, goes by and he sees his father's the tent, and he goes and he sees his father's nakedness, which is a shameful thing. But even worse, he then goes and tells his brothers that their dad is naked in his tent, and really causes him public shame. When Shem and Japheth hear about this, what do? If you remember?
They cover him.
Yeah, they cover him, and there's a way in which they covered him too.
They're walking
Going
backwards.
Yeah, they walked backwards. They took a blanket between them and they walked backwards. They wouldn't look upon their father's nakedness. And when Noah realizes what had happened and how his son Ham humiliated him, he curses Canaan, who is Ham's son. And the reason for that, if you remember why he cursed Canaan instead of Ham, do you know why that was? Remember? We discussed that a little bit before.
The bigger punishment to curse your child than yourself?
It's a little bit more than that. If he had, it's because of Noah's relationship with them. Because Noah, you don't curse your own son, because your son is connected to you. Like father and son are like one, like this. And so if Noah were to curse Ham, he would be cursing himself because he's his father. By cursing Canaan, he's cursing Ham and Canaan here. So this is kind of an interesting connection between the two. But in any case, that's when Canaan gets cursed. And you see that Ham, you say he's the enemy of God, absolutely. Because what Ham did is he did what the devil does. The devil, if you remember, is the accuser of the brethren. He's the one who accuses us and exposes us and humiliates us. Christ is the one who covers us and in our shame and protects us. And so what Ham did, he did the devil's work. That's the kind of stuff the devil does, accusing and exposing and humiliating. So Canaan is cursed. And so God, remember, what's the promise that God would do through Abraham and Isaac? Remember the promises he gave to them. He gave to Abraham first, and then he will pass on to Isaac now.
Land.
Descendants.
Make you a great nation, and the world will be blessed through your seed.
Yes. The whole plan is to bless the world through them. And so if he takes a woman from the Canaanites, these are people who have been cursed right now. And it's through Isaac that all the nations shall be blessed. And so that's why this is a mission of blessing, and to take from those who are cursed is a problem. Of course, we know that not all the Canaanites were damned, and some later on would be included even in the line of Christ. But not right now. Not right now. He needs to go now to take a wife. And where does he want her to take a wife from?
From his brother's family.
Yeah, from his own family. He's gonna go back to Haran, and he's gonna find someone within his own family, a descendant of Terah, to do this. There's one other thing about this that is mentioned a couple times in this passage. It's very important that the woman that he chooses, not from Canaan, but from among his own people, there's another thing that must happen.
Not bring his son back to the land where they came from.
Yeah, he is not to, absolutely, yes. Actually, two more things. But one of them is, do not bring Isaac back to Canaan, back to the land. He's to stay here. He's not to go back. So
back to Haran, you're saying?
Back to Haran. He's to stay in the land of Canaan. He's not to leave there. But there's one more thing regarding the woman, though, that is sort of mentioned a couple times.
Well,
Well,
she
there's
has
something-
to be from his family.
He's from his family. That's what we mentioned that. Yep, from his family. He's not a Canaanite. It's a little more subtle. but it's
He's looking
there.
for more characteristics, isn't he? You know, because when Rebecca comes out and is so kind and wants to offer him water and all that stuff, that seems to have been the characteristic that he was looking for.
There are some characteristics that he will come in the next paragraph, but in this one, there is one simple thing that Abraham says needs to be the case. I'll give you a hint. Let's see. Verse 5 and again in verse 8.
About being willing to follow.
Yeah, she needs to be willing. You're not just going to take somebody. He could do that. I mean, that was not an uncommon practice to basically women, in many cases, women had no say in who they would marry. It would be an exchange of the parents, and the woman just has to go along with it. But in this case, the woman must be willing. It's not something that can be forced upon her. She must be willing. And it said even a couple times, the servant, perhaps you may not be willing. And he says, but if the woman is not willing, then you'll be free. You don't have to worry about it. So, but that kind of a willing to do it. So it's not a forced thing. It's a joyful, free thing that she will do as a part of that. So, in fact,
I'm just amazed by we talked about before, there's themes that run through scripture, and this theme of not going back. You know, when he says there's more to it, it seems like to me than just don't go back to Haran. Because later on, after Moses, they'll say, don't go back to Egypt.
Yeah.
And we come to the New Testament, and it says, when you put your hand to the plow, don't look back.
Yes. Yeah.
Constantly going forward towards the promised land, the eternal city, so to speak, as opposed to. Yeah,
that's a good observation. We never go back to former chapters. We've completed that. We don't go back to those times again. We are always moving forward with those things. Now, with this another theme is that willingness too. You're going to see that when Moses later on builds the tabernacle, that everybody who gives freely and willingly. It's not a tax. When the Lord is working, he works through free people who do things willingly, not forced, like Pharaoh would do. He does it. It's a willingness. He moves the hearts of people to do things, which is a wonderful thing. As Christians, that's how we are. It's like we're not here because we're being made to. Well, maybe you girls are, but we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be here. We want to study the word. We want to learn these things. There's a willingness that marks the believer. All right, let's move along to our next paragraph here. Let's see. Addie, would you like to read a little bit?
Okay, wait a minute. We got to unmute you.
Yes, I would.
All right, great. Well, we'll be glad to have you. Let me pull it up again. Every time I move the screen, it goes crazy. So this is verses 10 down to 14, this paragraph right here.
Okay. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, taking all sorts of choice gifts from his master. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia,
Very
to
good.
the city of Nahar. And he made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of water at the time of evening, the time when women go out to draw water. And he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show steadfast love to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring of water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Let the young woman to whom I shall say,
Please let down your jar that I may drink. And who shall who shall say drink, and I will water your camels. Let her be the one whom you have appointed for your servant Isaac. By this I shall know that you have shown steadfast love to my master.
Great
Good
job.
Thank
So
you.
the servant goes now back, and he goes to Nahor to the city, and Nahor is Abraham's brother, so they are pretty wealthy folks as well. They seem to be doing very well for themselves. And he goes and he says, "How am I going to know who is the woman that God has chosen for Isaac?" And he offers a prayer to the Lord, and that's very important that he mentions his prayer, that he's asking the Lord, you have to do this. You've got to send it to me, but how will he know which one is the one? And he gives a little test by which he'll know. What was that? What was the test he will do?
When he asks for water, she says she'll give him the water, but she'll also water his camels.
Yeah. So he's going to be hanging out by the spring, and the daughters of the men will come, and he says, when he asks a woman who comes to him, let down your jar that I may drink. And if she gives him a drink, which most of them would do, that's not enough. It would be she gives him a drink and then she offers to water his camels, which is a lot more significant than watering, let's say, your dog. If you were taking your dog for a walk and someone said, "Oh, can I have a water?" and said, "Yes, you can have water, and here's some water for your dog." What's the difference between, oh, I don't know, offering water for a dog versus offering a water for 10 camels?
Volume.
Talking about a lot of water.
So we looked at that last time. It says, what was it? He said that each camel can drink up to 30 gallons of water in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So if that's 10 camels, and then that's just a few minutes of water, that's at least, 300 gallons of water she would have to pull out to water the camels. So this is an enormous act of grace and kindness on her part. So when she responds, that's a big key. You can see the heart of the woman in this when she responds that way. So, all right. So let's pick it up. We're still kind of reviewing what we did last time. Let's pick it up from here. Claudette, would you get this next section for us, 15 to 21?
Sure. Before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her water jar on her shoulder. The young woman was very attractive in appearance, a maiden whom no man had known. She went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please give me a little water to drink from your jar." She said, "Drink, my lord." And she quickly let down her jar upon her hand and gave him a drink. When she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels also, until they have finished drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran again to the well to draw water, and she drew for all his camels. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not.
All right, let's figure this out here. Let's do some math. How big a jar do you think it is that she was carrying?
5 gallons.
5 gallons, maybe? 5 gallons can be pretty heavy, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so she's got a 5-gallon jar, and she's gonna keep bringing water until when?
Till the camels stop drinking.
Until the camels finish drinking, right? So this isn't just a few minutes of drinking. How much can camels drink? She could have been taking like 100 trips to that well, bringing water for him and going back and back and back, and he's just watching this. It's almost comical when you think about it, of how much work she's doing. it's such a clear answer to prayer. That's the miracle of this, is that he asks her to do something that is so uncommon, and yet she does it quickly and willingly and by herself, apparently, because there's no mention of other people here. And she ran again to the well to draw water. There's an energy and such a joyful willingness to do this for him, which is stunning when you think about it, that she would have that. And so the man just is in awe and amazed. And how long did he wait for her for this prayer to be answered?
I mean, it had to have been like an hour, because if she's got to take 100 trips.
Oh, yeah. Well, before she came, how long before Rebecca appears from the time that he prayed?
It's almost immediately, wasn't it?
Yeah. Verse 15. It was before he'd even finished speaking. He's still praying to the Lord. He's still praying. And as he's praying, she comes down with her jar of water. Here, I lost my place here. There we go. And she meets every condition. She's of Abraham's family. She's also a young woman, and she's attractive to boot, and she's a virgin. There's no man has known her, and she's perfect wife material for Isaac. You couldn't ask for a better answer to prayer. And there you go. And he realized the Lord had prospered. There's one thing left that he has to figure out. The man gazed at her in silence to learn whether the Lord had prospered his journey or not. He doesn't know two things just yet. He knows that she's answered his first request, but there were two other things that have to be answered. Do you remember what they were?
Is she willing?
Is she willing? And
is she from the family?
Is she from the family? Now, we're told that she is, but he doesn't know that yet. So he's going to ask her now. And so let's pick it up there. Bob Thomas, you want to get the next section? 22
Sure.
to 28.
When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing a half shekel and 2 bracelets for her arms weighing 10 gold shekels, and said, "Please tell me whose daughter you are. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night?" She said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." She added, "We have plenty of both straw and fodder, and room to spend the night." The man bowed his head and worshiped the Lord, and said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his steadfast love and his faithfulness toward my master. As for me, the Lord has led me in the way to the house of my master's kinsman." Then the young woman ran and told her mother's household about these things.
All right. So first question is answered, and this is the one. This is the one. She tells him who she is. She's the granddaughter of Nahor, who is Abraham's brother. All right. So we're good to go. That's what we kind of covered last week. We're still a little bit of review here. So let's see the next part here. 29. Rob Roy, you want to get the next section there?
Okay. Rebecca had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out toward the man to the spring. As soon as he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms and heard the words of Rebecca, his sister, thus the man spoke to me. He went to the man, and behold, he was standing by the camels at the spring. He said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels." So the man came to the house and unharnessed the camels and gave straw and fodder to the camels. And there was water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Then food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have said what I have to say." He said, "Speak on."
Okay. A lot of running going on, if you notice. Rebecca runs. Now Laban runs to him, welcomes him, and he's ready to speak on. I think we left off. Oh, we got one more paragraph where we left off here. So let's pick it up from there. So now he tells his story to Laban. Teresa, you want to get that one for us here? 34.
Sure.
Are you?
So he said, excuse me. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master, and he has become great. He has given him flocks of herds, silver and gold, male servants and female servants, camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my wife's master, bore a son to my master when she was old. And to him he has given all that he has. My master has made me swear, saying, you shall not take away from my son from the daughter of the Canaanites in the land where I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house, to my clan, and take a wife for my son. I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow me. But he said to me, the Lord before whom I have walked will send you his angel with you to prosper you on your way. You shall take a wife from my son, from my clan, and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my clan. And if they will not give her to you, you will be free from my oath.
Okay, so he basically tells the story again. It's very interesting. The story is repeated a few times. He recounts what his instructions were, and now he tells what Abraham told him. He tells that to Laban. Okay, and now we'll pick up the rest of the story. It's really a strange way it's told. It happens, and then he tells you again all that just happened. So let's pick it up there from verse 42. Jack, you want to get the next section there? 42 down to 9?
Read it.
Easy, okay?
I came today to the spring and said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if now you are prospering the way that I go, behold, I am standing by the spring of water. Let the virgin who comes out to draw water, and to whom I shall say, please give me a little water from your jar to drink, and who will say to me, drink, and I will draw water for your camels also. Let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her water jar on her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water. I said to her, please let me drink. She quickly let down her jar from her shoulders and said, drink, and I will give your camels drink also. So I drank, and she gave the camels drink also. Then I asked her, whose daughter are you? She said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. So I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and worshiped the Lord and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had led me by the right of way, to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. Now then, if you are going to show steadfast love and faithfulness to you, my master, tell me, and if not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left.
Okay. All right. I think this is where we left off last time at the end of that. So he tells the story again to Laban and what happened with Rebekah and giving glory to God throughout this, bowing his head and worshiping. You'll know this really, as you look at the story, it's like the only one doing anything is really God. He's the one arranging that. This is all an answer to the prayer and God's steadfast love and faithfulness to Abraham. These things should happen. This is not how you find your future mate. This is not a pattern. It's not a good idea to go to a place, a well or a bar where they're serving drinks and do this little test. It's not what that's about. This is a prayer, and it's God's faithfulness to Abraham, choosing just the right woman who's going to bring the blessing to all mankind.
Well, it's good too, because it's tough to get camels these days.
That's true. That's true. But so it really is. It's not about how we should date or how we should do anything. This is about God working and answering his prayer so quickly and so thoroughly in such a remarkable way. So this is what we'll pick it up now, is which we left off last time, I believe, verse 50 here. And let's see how this goes from here. So Bob Fowler, you want to get the next section here, 50, we'll go down to 61.
Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing has come from the Lord. We cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken.
All right, stop right there, actually, before we continue. The main point that's being made here, Laban and Bethuel both. Who is Bethuel, by the way, and who's Laban?
Father and mother, aren't they?
No.
No, that's mother and son, isn't it? But
No, that's son and father.
Son and father. So Laban is Rebekah's what?
Cousin.
no, brother.
Brother.
Oh, I'm sorry, brother. Yes, brother.
And Bethuel is who? That's Rebekah's.
That's Rebekah's mom.
No.
Father.
Father.
Oh,
Milcah
father.
was-
I mean, yeah, okay, yeah. Wait a minute,
Milcah
I thought Nahor was the father.
Nahor is the grandfather.
Oh, okay.
Nahor is Abraham's brother.
So actually, so it's Laban is her brother, and then Bethuel is her father, and then Nahor is her grandfather, and Milcah is her grandmother.
Oh.
Because Bethuel by Milcah had, I'm sorry, Nahor and Milcah had Bethuel, and Bethuel had Laban and Rebekah. Okay. And we got that?
Then it makes sense because Abraham had his son so late in life. His brother had already had 2 generations.
Yeah. So in one sense, Rebecca would be Isaac's niece, I guess, or first cousin, first removed, or something like that.
Oh man.
So again, this is back in the day. This is not there. All right. So but notice what they testify, and I think that really is a main theme in this whole story.
That it came from the Lord.
Whatever this thing is, the thing has come from the Lord. And so they realize, look, who are we to say no to this? The Lord has set this up. We can't say no. But now notice they give Laban and Bethuel give permission just to take Rebekah. But that's not sufficient, is it?
Rebekah has to decide she wants to go.
Yeah, Rebekah she has to go willingly. He can't, this is not, and again, it was custom that at that time that the woman really didn't have a choice typically in the matter. It was, she's given from one family to another to set this up, and she submits to that and goes along with that. And Laban and Bethuel are, according to custom, would have the charge over this. But in our story so far, we've seen is that she is the one who must willingly go. So it's a very interesting story here. So let's pick it up 52. You want to pick up there from there, Bob?
When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the earth before the Lord. And the servant brought out jewelry of silver and of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave to her brother and to her mother costly ornaments. And he and the men whom were with him ate and drank, and they spent the night there. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me away to my master." Her brother and her mother said, "Let the young woman remain with us at least 10 days. After that, she may go." But he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master." They said, "Let us call the young woman and ask her." And they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" She said, "I will go." So they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant with his men, and they blessed Rebekah and said to her, O sister, may you become thousands of 10,000s, and may your offspring possess the gate of those who hate him. Then Rebekah and her young woman rose and rode the camels and followed the man. Thus the servant took Rebekah and went his way.
Okay. So, first thing that happens, Abraham's servant hears their words. He's excited about this. He bows himself to the Lord. And what does he do after that? Okay. He bows him. How many times does he bow before the Lord? Bows again before the Lord with every answer to his prayer. And then what does he do with for Rebekah and for
He gives them gifts.
yes. He gives gifts to Rebekah and wait a minute. Oh, actually, coming back for a second, her brother
Her brother and her mother.
and to her mother. But we don't let me pull back for a second. Because Bethuel is her father, but her mother's not mentioned by name, which is interesting. I want to just double check this. Yeah, we don't know. It doesn't say who her mother is, but he gives gifts to Rebekah and to her brother and to her mother. Okay, they spend the night. And what does the servant want to do?
He wants to leave right away.
Servant wants to leave right away. Okay. Why does he want to leave right away?
He's accomplished what he came for, and he wants to bring it back to his master.
Yeah.
Bring her
Yeah.
back.
This is like, yes, he wants to prayers are answered. Let's bring her back. I mean, he wants to bring her back right away. He doesn't want to delay. And part of it is out of his love for his master, a love for Abraham. How would Abraham feel if he stays for how long?
10 days.
10
10
days.
days, right? So now it's like he's away for 2 more weeks, and there's no communication that he can give and explain whether he's been successful or not. So that's 2 more weeks of anxiety, of worry about his son. And he wants to bring him back as quickly as possible. It's not like he can send a telegram to Abraham and say, hey, we did it. We're coming home. It's like he's going to be in the dark for 2 more weeks. So what happens here? They want the girl to stay for 10 days. You know what that's about? Anyone have notes on that? I'm not sure if it's a custom or if it's just they don't want to say goodbye just yet.
Yeah, my gut is they just want to make sure this is all right.
Yeah. Her brother and mother. By the way, you know that so much of what the servant is telling them is the truth. Remember, one of the things he says, I'm coming from Abraham, and God has blessed him. And then all those gifts of gold and the garments, it's like that's really showing he's not making this up. That's sort of the evidence of that he's really is coming from Abraham. But her brother and mother, they want her to stay for at least 10 days. And that's a reasonable request. I mean, he just shows up and, at least give us some time to say goodbye. But no time for goodbyes. Please don't delay. And so the question they have to ask is,
what does Rebekah say?
Yeah, is she willing? Answer, check. Is Rebekah willing to go with this man? And she responds, this final thing that seals it.
Yes, go.
Rebecca's response, I will go. Really, it's a great word of faith for us to, there's the offer, I will go. And she's leaving behind her family, who clearly love her and a life of comforts. They're doing fine. They're doing very well. And to go to a place she does not know, to marry a man she's never met. So, ladies, how many of you would do this here? Leave your home and all your comforts of home to go to a strange land filled with enemies of your people, to marry some guy you've never, all you know is that he's probably pretty rich. That's all you know.
He could be a cyclops, or you know.
Who knows? I mean, who knows? This is really a wonder of faith that he's willing to do that.
Well,
Okay.
it's not really much different than the arranged marriages some cultures still do. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick is from,
Yeah.
you know, he could potentially have a wife that his parents arrange.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did
But
tell us.
how many of those women do this willingly, though? And that's the thing. It's just an act of faith on Rebecca's part. Faith must be willing to do it. It's not something that is forced upon you. You know, we are, you know, to follow Christ and to follow God faithfully is to follow him willingly. We're not being forced to. Like we say, you know, there's a certain point, I know as a young man, you know, my parents were devout believers, but there came a point where it had to become my faith. They could make me go to church, but at some point it had to become my own. And I had to be the one wanting to go to church, wanting to read my Bible, wanting to follow Christ. Until then, it was their faith forced upon me. All right. So they bless her, and Rebecca's response, I'm going to put in all caps, this is faith. Willingly. And then there's the blessing. They bless Rebecca. Who is the they that bless her?
The family.
Yeah. And it seems to be with the mother and brother. Seems to be the two. Yeah. They bless Rebecca, and what do they say?
May you, our sister, become thousands of 10,000s. May your descendants possess the gates of your enemies and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So they know what this is about. This is a very similar blessing to what was given to Abraham, isn't it? May you have become thousands of 10,000s. May you become many, many descendants. And may you possess the land of your enemies, the gate of those who hate him.
Yeah, you would think when Abraham left on this journey, he would have told them why he was leaving.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have been in on it. They've been keeping in touch with each other. Remember, Abraham was told that Nahor had a kid and all these things. And so now remember, Abraham, how long ago was it when Abraham left? Do you remember how long ago it was that Abraham had left this area, Haran?
75. He was 75. Yeah.
He was 75, and when this story is being told, how old is Abraham?
140 something.
What did we say last time?
It was over 140.
We did the calculations before, didn't we? I'm going to try to find it up here real quick. Yeah, about 140 years old. So 65 years it's been since Abraham left. He was 75 years old. 65 years later that he sends Isaac now to get a wife. Boy, that's a long time. That is a long time. So Isaac now, so can you imagine that? So he has to wait 100 years to have a son. And then after having that son, he's got to wait another 40 years for that son to get married. You think he's never going to leave the home. And then it's going to be, I think, another 20 years before he has a grandson. Talk about slow movement. Goodness. So, but may you possess the land, the land of your enemies, those who hate you. And then Rebecca and her young woman rose and rode the camels and followed the man. The servant took Rebecca and went his way. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you have to wonder, why did he wait 40 years to send for a bride? I mean, 20, but
yeah, well, it was when Sarah died that this happened. So I wonder if the logistics were that he was really needed to take care of his mom. That's possible. I don't know. I mean, it's they're very old. And if he's needed around there, and Abraham's very, very old, so who knows? I mean, yeah. But you can see God doesn't seem to care about our timetables, does he?
no.
Takes his sweet time on things here. So let's pick up our final part here, 62 down to 67. Claudia, you want to finish this off here?
Sure. Now Isaac had returned from Beer Lahai Roy and was dwelling in the Negev. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field toward evening. And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there were camels coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel and said to her servant, "Who is that man walking in the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
Okay. So Isaac, this is sort of another similar to the theme of the story here, as you can see God's divine providence in this. So Isaac returns and is dwelling. Isaac is dwelling in the Negev, and he goes out and just to meditate. Whether it's to pray, if there was some, I don't know what scriptures he would have been reading or something like that, but he goes out to meditate toward evening. And while he's out there, lo and behold, what happens?
He sees them coming.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting, by God's providence, he is the first to see Rebecca. And for her to see him. So remember, Abraham has thousands of people living with him. And Isaac just happens to be out in the field at the time when Rebecca and the camels are coming by on the way home. And he's the first to see her and welcome her. She says when she says, "Who is this?" What is going on there? Did you catch that? She sees him.
Yeah, she says, "Who's this guy?" And the servant says, "He's my master."
Sees Isaac, and what does she do after she realizes it's Isaac?
Puts a veil on.
Yeah. You know what that's about?
Shows submission or something.
So, and she says it puts on a veil. It was customary for a woman to cover her face with a veil during the period of betrothal. So, it's kind of like we still have some of that custom, like during the wedding service, where she is covered with a veil, and then they lift the veil when they're married. I think throughout the whole, typically, is it through the whole service? When does the veil get lifted? Does anyone remember if they do it?
I think it's at the end after the person doing the ceremony says, "Now you may kiss your bride," or something. I think that's when it is.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's there or when the father lifts the veil. I can't remember how it goes, but
Oh, maybe that's it. You know,
Yeah, I'm
it's
not even
changed so
sure.
much. They don't even wear veils anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
more for show than
So
anything.
it's yeah, so it's a sign of her betrothal. Um, so she sees him, and she's, in a sense, at this point, she is betrothed, and so she covers herself with this veil. And I don't know if that's designed to um as a sign to others that she is taken, that she is not for public view any longer. Um,
It's interesting too that she didn't do it right away when some guy was coming. She waited until she knew who it was.
yes, once she sees it's Isaac and she knows that, he took her veil and covered herself. Um, okay, so then Isaac, this is their marriage ceremony here.
He's moving quick. He's moving
Yes,
quick.
Isaac brings her into his tent. That's the sort of the into the tent of Sarah, his mother. Um, and took Rebecca, and she became his wife. So she takes Sarah. At those times, I believe that the women and the men slept separately. They had their own tents. They had their own place. Um, that was typical of the time. So Sarah's tent was empty now, and she's going to take the place now of Sarah. And she becomes his wife, and he loves her. So I don't think it was common practice back then for a man and a woman to sleep in the same bedroom. They they would have separate bedrooms frequently. And so um, she had her own place, and so he takes Sarah's place, and he loves her. And that's sort of the bringing her into the tent of Sarah, his mother, and taking her, she became his wife, is a reference to that, the consummation of the marriage. That was the main part of it. If you remember, I'm not sure what they did for ceremonies back then. We don't really have a marriage ceremony per se. But what really sealed it was that the covenant act of when they consummate the marriage, and then it seals the deal. So she becomes his wife, and
Unlike in the New Testament when they celebrated for a week.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if they may have celebrated.
Didn't they celebrate for a length of time?
Yeah, if they were wealthy, they would celebrate for quite some time. I'm sure they would celebrate this. We're not told about the reception of it, but the ceremony itself of like we have a wedding ceremony, and then we have a reception. And so we're not really told what the ceremony was, but we know that when he takes her into the tent, that's when they're really officially married, when they're consummated. So that's why when we do a wedding service, it always ends with "You may kiss the bride." That's a symbol of the consummation that we're expecting is going to happen that night or soon thereafter. So it's a symbol of that. Whereas in those days, they would go off into a tent and they would wait for them to finish up, and then they'd come out and ta-da, we're married. So it's very. But Isaac loves her, and he is comforted, and is comforted after his mother's death. So that's the end of that story. We now will turn our attention much more to Isaac and his endeavors, and really not a lot about Isaac, but a few stories about him. And then we'll conclude with Jacob and Joseph. So, all right. I think we'll end it here. Stop sharing and oopsie. There we go.